In 2008, we had a big bear market problem because of too much debt. Since 2008, the debt everywhere skyrocketed, unbelievable. Even China has debt now. China didn't have debt 20 years ago, 15 years ago, but even China has a lot of debt now. Who's going to save us? The Chinese saved us in 2009 because they had a lot of money saved for a rainy day and they started spending it. They don't have a lot of money to spend now. Who's going to save us? As you know, nearly every government, every central bank in the world has been printing huge amounts of money and borrowing and spending huge amounts of money. It's never happened like this in the history of the world. Never in recorded history we've seen so much excess. I'll call it excess. They think it's normal. They think it's fine. And this has caused many markets to go up a lot. You know, if you want to build a bridge, it takes a long time. But if you want to invest and you have a lot of money floating around, you just go on the internet and in 5 seconds you can invest in anything you want to. And that's what's been happening, and that's what's continuing to happen. There might be signs that's beginning to slow down. The Chinese seem to be cutting back some, not a lot. Well, not a lot, but they're cutting back. They're not expanding. Other countries say they're cutting back, and the U.S. says, oh, maybe we should cut back someday. But in the meantime, there's gigantic amounts of money floating around. It's going into markets. It's going into the real economy as well. It's artificial. You see some of the things that, the shipping business is just unbelievably hot right now because there's so much money floating around. The bad news is these things always end, and the better they get, the worse they get when they end. And as I said, we've never seen anything like this in recorded history, so be worried. I'm not short. I haven't sold short anything, but I am certainly worried. As I look around the world, bonds are clearly in a bubble. Bonds have never been this expensive in the history of the world, not in recorded history anyway. Property in many places, you go to Korea, you go to New Zealand, you go many places, property is certainly in a bubble. Stocks, many stocks. I mean, Amazon goes up every day. Tencent goes up every day. Samsung goes up every day. So some stocks performing a bubble, but many stocks are still not up. So it's not a complete bubble yet. So there you have stocks, property, bonds, all in bubbles or forming bubbles. The only thing that's still cheap, commodities. Silver's down 60% from its all-time high. Sugar's down 70% from its all-time high. Oil is down 50%. I mean, these are not bubble numbers when you talk about big declines, historic declines. But with all the money being printed, the asset class in the world that I prefer at the moment would be commodities because they're cheap when everything else is booming. I do own stocks. I do own stocks in places like China, Russia, Japan, other places. But I'm not rushing out to buy unless I find something really good. They've already gotten into trillions, which you and I never could have conceived of. Most people could not have conceived of, but they don't want to stop. So I'm wondering what's after trillions? Are we going to learn new languages, new vocabulary here in the next year or two if they keep going the way they're going? Well, I said, I'm not short. I know it's going to end badly. If something comes along that's good, I'll buy it. But I know this is going to end very, very, very badly. To repeat, the better it gets, the worse it's going to get when it comes to an end. I would suspect that when it ends, we're going to have the worst bear market in my lifetime. In 2008, we had a big bear market problem because of too much debt. Since 2008, the debt everywhere skyrocketed, unbelievable. Even China has debt now. China didn't have debt 20 years ago, 15 years ago, but even China has a lot of debt now. Who's going to save us? The Chinese saved us in 2009 because they had a lot of money saved for a rainy day and they started spending it. They don't have a lot of money to spend now. Who's going to save us? North Korea? I have no confidence in whoever they are. I will say, Adam, it's a good time to be old in America because I don't have to pay for all of this when it comes to an end. My children, oh my gosh, the problems my children are going to run into in their lifetimes because of what these clowns are doing now. But it's going to end someday, and it's going to end badly when it ends, either currency collapse or economic collapse. You can have both. You can have one and then it leads to another. In the 30s, we had both, for instance, around the world. And then we had war, a shooting war. And that's the really bad news is often in history when you have really, really bad times, especially worldwide, it winds up in shooting wars. It certainly did after the 30s. So it's not good news. I don't see good news. I repeat that in 2008 and 9, we had horrible problems with too much debt. Since then, the debt has gone through the roof by unbelievable amounts. And I know that's going to end badly. I don't want to scare people or anything else. I own shares. I'm not short anything. I know how much money they can print. History is pretty clear that when you have bad times, there is usually social unrest. People aren't happy. And if we do, in fact, have the worst bear market of my lifetime, which I don't see how we can avoid, if and when that comes, there are going to be a lot of very, very unhappy and angry people. But that does not mean there won't be a war. It would be certainly not good for the U.S. because the Chinese have a lot of money and a lot of soldiers and a lot of guns, a lot of bullets, a lot of boats. They have more boats than than we do in America now. The Navy is bigger than our Navy. I don't know if it's as good as our Navy, but I know they have built a huge Navy. So it would not be good for anybody if it happens, but no war is good for anybody. They certainly have problems. There's no question about that. They have debt. The bankruptcy going on now, but there have been 2 or 3 others here in the last few weeks, a few months. And interestingly enough, China has said, we will let people go bankrupt. If you foul up, we're not going to bail you out. These are communists, they're acting like good capitalists. We don't let people go bankrupt in America or London or Germany. We bail you out. Well, the Chinese have said, we're not going to bail you out. And so far, they've lived up to that. I mean, they're letting these guys go through the ringer. And I hope they do. It'll be good for China. It'll be good for the world if they do it. And so maybe we were talking before about the early signs. Maybe these are the early signs because China is the second largest economy in the world. And if they start having more and more problems, there will certainly be a snowball effect. Now, your question is who's going to, let's say we do have the worst economic times in my lifetime, who's going to come out the other side? Well, in the last time it happened, the U.S. came out the other side as the number 1 country in the world, the richest country in the world. These things always start where we're not looking. In 2007, Iceland went bankrupt. People said, what? Who's Iceland? If they noticed. Nobody cared. And a few months later, Ireland went bankrupt. Some noticed. A few months later, Bear Stearns went bankrupt. Now we're starting to notice. And then BlackRock went bankrupt in the big bank in England. And then eventually, Lehman Brothers went, well, then it's on the evening news. Then everybody knows. So my point is these things snowball and they start where we're not looking. And it may have already started for all I know. I've seen some small places having problems. But as I say, I'm not selling short yet because I know how much money these guys can print. Well, then they're going to really panic because they want to keep their jobs. And so they're going to print even more money. And so we'll have a rally. But I would suspect that would be the last rally because there's only so much. I mean, eventually the market says, wait a minute, guys, we've seen this movie before. We know how it ends. We don't care how much money you print. So that in that kind of scenario, we go down, they print a lot, have the big year-end rally, and then 2022 is a serious problem. So yes, it can happen. Everybody will suffer, but I would suspect that China will come out less bad than the rest of us because they do have more assets, reserves. They don't have as much. They have debt now, but nothing like Japan or the U.S. or England or some of the other developed countries, if I can use that term. What you and I need to do is to figure out who is going to come out the other side, number 1. If I were asked today, I would say it would be China. But who knows? Lots of things can happen between now and 2031, just to pick a year. But as I don't see anybody else on the horizon that can be as less damaged and as successful as China probably would be. When the bureaucrats and the central bankers see problems, they're going to do everything they can to save their jobs. So they're going to print even more money, as you point out. They may buy stocks. In Japan, the Bank of Japan buys ETFs. I own Japanese ETFs. He's got more money than I do. If he's going to buy Japanese ETFs, I want to own some too. He's a good bureaucrat. He goes to work early every morning, prints as much money as he can, in his words, unlimited amounts. Well, if he's got unlimited amounts of money, I want to own some as well.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.